Hi fashionista, this is La Contra. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make a kimono with binding. Before we start, please like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned. Okay guys, so to do the dress, we have our shoulder line, chest line, waistline, hip line, and hemline. Okay, you can see the front here, and this is the back. The center front is going to have allowance, while the center back is going to be on fold, as you can see. So this is across back measurement on front and back. So I'm just going to continue drafting the dress. So right now I'll mark the neck width and the shoulder slant. So there we have it. If you're confused how to do this, you could watch the video for basic bodice. There's a full explanation for that in that video. So the depth of the neckline is my waistline. So neck depth, from the neck width, I'll just take my ruler, connect it to the waistline. Although you can make it as high as your chest line, but I want the waistline. Next thing you're going to do is on the chest line, you're going to mark quarter of bust circumference plus half-inch ease. Okay, the ease is not the seam allowance. On the hip line, you're going to mark quarter of hip circumference plus half-inch ease. Okay, take note, the ease is not seam allowance. I'm going to mark the same measurement on the hip or on the hem as well. So that's quarter of hip circumference plus half-inch ease. So watch me connect the points together from the hip to the hem, from the hip to the chest line. Take note, it's not a fitted garment. It doesn't have that as well. So I'm going to construct the armhole. There we have it. So you can see I highlighted it for you to see it clearly. So what's left is just to add seam allowance around the kimono pattern. So to start, I'm going to mark the neck width on the back, just like I did in front, and the shoulder slant. I'll draw the shoulder. It's basically the same thing that we did in the front, okay? So that's the neck depth I'm marking. You can use 1 inch for your neck depth or 1.5 for a bigger person, but 1 inch is just fine for regular size people. So that's the neck for the back. Remember, the back is on fold as indicated on the paper. So on the chest line, it's still quarter of bust circumference plus half-inch for ease. Okay, you're adding ease because the garment is not fitted. So I'm just marking the same thing I have on the front, quarter of hip plus half-inch for ease. It's as simple as that, fashionista. And on the hemline, same thing that I have on the hip. Okay, so I'm also going to connect the points from the hip to the hem with a straight line, and then from the chest line to the hip, another straight line. So you can see there's nothing difficult about this. Next, you're going to be constructing the armhole. Please watch the video for basic bodies if you do not know how to construct the armhole. So you can see the back and front. The back is on fold. Don't forget, neckline, you're going to be adding half-inch to the neck, shoulder half-inch, armhole half-inch, side seam 1, and on the hem 1 or 2 inches. While on the front, on the center front, half-inch, 2 inches at the hem, 1 inch side seam, half-inch armhole, and half-inch shoulder, just as you can see. Okay, you can see the allowance I've added. Just follow suit. It's quite easy and simple. So right now, take your tape and measure the back neckline. Okay, the reason why I'm measuring the neckline is because of that binding. You can see you need to measure the neckline to get the binding. So let's say the back is 4, you're going to multiply that by 2 because the back is on 4. That's 8 inches. You're also going to measure the front neckline plus center front. So here's where you're going to measuring. From the hem here, you're going to measure up to the neck width and multiply whatever you get by 2. So let's say 25 times 2, that's 50. Now you're going to add back neck and front neck together. So that makes 58. So the total length of the binding for the neckline is 58 inches. Okay. So right now I've cut out, I'm going to be cutting 2 pieces of the front, and then the back is on fold. So you can cut out on fabric now. So when you cut out, you're going to have this. You can see the back, you can see the center back on fold. Yeah, you can see seam allowance, you can see how long the dress is. That's why I decided to draft it on smaller paper. You can see the neckline. Here we have the front. We have 2 pieces of the front allowance added all around. You can see the center front allowance 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch on the neckline. So you can see where you're measuring from the neck width to the hem for the binding. Do not forget. So this is the sleeve, an A-line bell sleeve. Okay, you need to be able to know how to draft basic sleeve before you do this. And here is the binding. You can see the width of the binding, 5 inches. By the time I fold 5 inches, 2.5. By the time I sew it 1/2 inch, it falls back to 2 inches binding. So right now I'm going to separate the pattern from the fabric. I'll open the front, the back, I meant to say, right sides facing up. I'll place and I'll sew the shoulder. Okay, so I'll place the front on the back on one side. You can see shoulder to shoulder. I'll pin and sew with 1/2 inch. I'll do the same thing for the other side. So you can see I've sewn the shoulder together. The next thing I'll be doing is I'll be attaching the sleeve. So you see the front sleeve has 1 notch, the back has 2 notches. So I'll just take the notches to identify where I'm going to set my sleeve into. So here's one sleeve. You can see front notch. Okay, I'll look for the front. You can see it matches with the front. So I'll place the sleeve. I'll pin around the armhole and sew with 1/2 inch. So you can see I've pinned. I'm going to sew. So I've sewn the sleeve around the armhole. I'll repeat the same thing on the other side. So now I'm going to attach binding to the sleeve. So I'll fold my binding into 2 this way. I'll place it on the sleeve, right sides up, and I'll sew it 1/2 inch. You can see I've pinned it down. Okay, so I've sewn. Now I'm going to press flat. You can see the other binding on the other sleeve. So right now it's time to sew the underarm sleeve. So I'll place the sleeve together. I'll pin the sleeve into the side seam. So you can see I've run my pin from the sleeve even into the side seam down to the hem. So I've sewn, you can see. So you're going to be pressing and overlocking the rough edges. So right now I'm going to attach bind all around the center front and neckline. So you can see the binding on the sleeves. You can see the contrast. So right now I'm going to be attaching binding from the hem here around the neckline to the back neckline to the other side down to the hem. That's how we're going to be attaching the binding. So right now I'll take the binding and pin it carefully. Okay, so you can see it's folded in half. You could interface yours, but for this one I'm not interfacing. I want a very soft touch. Okay, so I'm just going to pin this carefully. You can see I've pinned it. I've not sewn it yet, but this is how it's going to look when you pin it. You pin it around the neckline, just like you see here. Okay, if you're not using interfacing, you have to pin it carefully and sew carefully. So this is the kimono, although it needs a lot of pressing. Okay, you can see the binding, you can see the contrast. Ooh, it's going to look really nice after pressing. Okay, you can see. So right now you're going to overlock all these rough edges you can see, and then the garment is going to be ready to wear. So I hope this video was helpful. I hope you were able to grab some information and tips. I really hope you try this out and submit if you feel like it. Stay tuned for future videos. This is La Contra. Stay inspired.